All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're uncovering the fascinating and honestly largely untold story of Helen Keller. I'm so excited to share this with you because we're going to move way past that sanitized childhood tale we all think we know. This is a story of a brilliant intellect, radical politics, and a truly global footprint.
Look, we all know that iconic moment at the water pump, right? But the real question is, what on earth happened during the rest of her unexpected, radical, and globally influential 87-year life? We tend to freeze Helen Keller in time as this young girl at a water pump. But guys, her story was literally just beginning.
To really understand her true impact, we're going to follow this structure. 1. The early breakthrough. 2. Breaking educational barriers. 3. The radical activist. 4. Companions in global travels. And 5. An enduring legacy. Let's get into it.
Section 1. The early breakthrough. A world gone dark.
So her early life moved incredibly fast. She was born in 1880 in Tuscumbia, Alabama, into this former slaveholding elite family that had actually lost a lot of status after the Civil War. Then, at just 19 months old, she contracted this unknown illness, maybe meningitis, maybe scarlet fever, that left her permanently blind and deaf. Or, as she so vividly put it, at sea in a dense fog. And that intense isolation lasted until 1887, which is when her famous instructor, Anne Sullivan, finally arrived on the scene.
Just imagine the sheer emotional triumph of that moment in 1887. Sullivan had been spelling words into her hand, but it just wasn't clicking. Not until she ran Helen's hand under cool water while spelling W-A-T-E-R. Suddenly, she connected those hand motions to the actual physical world. It was a massive breakthrough. It totally awakened her mind and basically demanded she instantly learn the name of every familiar object she could get her hands on.
Moving on to Section 2. Breaking educational barriers. A hunger for knowledge.
Now, she definitely didn't just stop at basic signs. She was fiercely determined to communicate as conventionally as possible with the outside world. She ended up mastering 3 really complex methods: fingerspelling, reading Braille, and the incredibly difficult Tadoma method. That's where she literally felt the vibrations of a speaker's lips and throat to hear what they were saying. Just absolutely incredible dedication.
And, all that hard work really paid off. In 1904, she completely conquered higher education. She graduated from Harvard's Radcliffe College, becoming the very first deafblind person in the United States to earn a Bachelor of Arts degree. And she actually achieved this monumental milestone with the financial backing of Standard Oil magnate Henry Huddleston Rogers. Fun fact, she was introduced to him by her good friend Mark Twain.
Section 3. The Radical Activist, a fierce intellectual voice.
Okay, this is where things get really interesting. Her adult affiliations completely subvert that passive angelic figure we're often taught about in grade school. Helen Keller was an active, tireless champion for labor rights, civil liberties, and racial equality. She co-founded the ACLU. She funded the NAACP because she was absolutely horrified by the treatment of Black Americans in the South. And she was an active, card-carrying member of both the Socialist Party of America and the Industrial Workers of the World.
Now, there was a stark contrast in how the public treated her when she actually started speaking out. Before her socialist views were public, commentators, like the editor of the Brooklyn Eagle, praised her brilliance. But after? Well, that same editor suddenly used her disabilities against her, dismissing her views by claiming she had manifest limitations. Kind of wild how quickly the narrative flipped, right?
But she definitely did not take that insult quietly. Her biting, eloquent response here really shows off her sharp intellect. She pointed out that it was the systemic poverty defended by papers like the Eagle that actually drove people into terrible working conditions or a life of prostitution. And those things led to untreated diseases like syphilis, which at the time was actually one of the leading causes of blindness. She clearly saw disability rights and workers' rights as deeply, deeply connected. Her core argument was just profound. She deeply believed that poor children simply lacked the same advantages of birth and environment that she had enjoyed. She very openly recognized that her own success was largely due to the wealth and support she happened to have access to. So she fought for a world where everyone had those resources, where the majority wasn't, as she said, ground down by industrial oppression.
And perhaps unsurprisingly, her activism did not go unnoticed by the government. It's actually pretty shocking to realize that this universally celebrated American icon was viewed as a political radical. She even earned a spot on the FBI's radar, right alongside friends of hers like Mark Twain.
Now we have to look at the whole picture, and it's a challenging historical reality that in 1915, she actually wrote in favor of eugenics. She supported the refusal of life-saving medical care to infants with severe impairments. It really reflects the highly complex and sometimes totally contradictory reality of her ideological positions during that era. History is rarely simple, and neither was she.
All right, Section 4. Companions and Global Travel's A Worldwide Impact. So far from being isolated, she was this deeply connected global ambassador. She leaned on incredibly dedicated lifelong companions, first Anne Sullivan and later Polly Thompson and Winnie Corbally, to literally travel the earth. Just look at this stat for a second. She visited 35 countries in just over a decade to raise funds for the blind. Plus, meeting every single U.S. president from Grover Cleveland to LBJ, that is a massive testament to her enduring cultural relevance. Oh, and I have to add this fascinating, surprising little fact. Did you know she is actually credited with bringing the Akita dog breed to America? Yeah. During a trip to Japan in 1937, she learned about the incredibly loyal dog Hachiko, completely fell in love with the breed, and brought the very first Akitas back to the United States. They became some of her greatest companions.
And finally, Section 5, An Enduring Legacy, Beyond the Legend.
Her lasting legacy is just staggering. It spans from crucial public health reforms, like advocating for washing newborn babies' eyes with a disinfectant solution, which literally saved countless children from blindness, to prestigious national honors like the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I mean, she authored 14 books, co-founded Helen Keller International, and completely reshaped disability rights and social activism on a global scale.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this provocative thought. Why do we so easily forget the fiery, radical intellectual she actually was in favor of a simpler, safer story? Helen Keller wasn't just a symbol of overcoming adversity. She was a fierce advocate who genuinely challenged the very foundations of society. Thank you so much for joining me to explore the true, complex life of this extraordinary historical figure. Keep learning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.